Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We are doing our budget Leonin series and taking a look at the combat Leonin, or combat cats I'm calling it. So what are we covering? Again, I am covering what's called exemplars. I'm going to plow through this quickly because I've done this so many times. Yeah, these are creatures that have a high affinity with one particular color. So we've already done 3. Rats for black, goblins for red, and merfolk for blue. And now we are doing Leonin for white. So yeah, Leonin are a weird one because they don't actually have their own creature type. Which, considering how many Leonin there are, is pretty ridiculous. I compared it before to it being like saying human, just putting ape. Like, I guess technically true, but not really missing the point. You know, if you have hundreds of humans, you should maybe just have human, not ape. And they do, just not for Leonin. Anyway, yeah. Again, this is the second video in the Leonin series looking at the combat specialization. So they have a lot for this. And when I say budget, I mean $2 or less on the TCG market value, not a sponsor. No. Honorable mentions. Okay. These are all under 3 cents, or these are 3 cents exactly, actually. Lurking Arnix? Okay. It is 4 and a green for a 3/5, so that's not a great start, but is formidable. For 2 and a green, target creature blocks Lurking Arnix this turn if able. Activate only if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater. This is something you can use to set up a number of things, right? If you want to make sure that one blocker is taken out of the combat, be like, you have to block this. You can give him death touch. You can do all kinds of tricks. So yeah, if you've got like something to give indestructible, you can just do this over and over and keep forcing them to block this creature instead of like some other creature. So it's useful, expensive though, right? I mean CMC wise. 2 and a green after paying 4 and a green. That's getting high. If you don't have something to like lower some of those mana costs, I'd say don't do it. Bola Slinger. So this is an interesting one as well. 3 and a white for a 2/2. It has backup 1, so when this creature enters the battlefield, +1/+1 counter on target creature, and it gains this ability. So whenever this creature attacks, tap up to tap target artifact or a creature an opponent controls. Again, an opponent, not the defending player necessarily, so it has a nice little bit of flexibility there. And this just prevents, like, usually they're not going to have a whole bunch of great blockers, right? You stop that one blocker that's a pain in the butt, and then that changes the equation a lot. Blocking, if you take out their best blocker, I think there's like usually the best blocker, and then it's a pretty steep drop to like a whole bunch of not ideal blockers. So yeah. I think especially the fact that he can put a +1/+1 on a creature, and that creature gains this ability the first turn. So you don't really have as much worries about summoning sickness. Anywho. Second honorable mentions again. These are 10 cents or less. So Frondland Felidar. I always think of Mr. Frond. Do you know from Bob's Burgers? Mr. Frond? Anyway, probably not related. So 2 white-green, or Selesnya, whatever you want to call it. And this is a Vigilance, 3/5. Creatures you control with Vigilance have pay 1, tap target creature. So if you have Vigilance creatures, you can start just like tapping down their whole board and just like smashing them. Vigilance, I think, is one of the kind of lesser useful ones in general. It is great in its own right because, you know, attacking and still being able to block, but that's kind of all it does. So yeah. Stalking Leonin. 2 and a white for a 3/3. So when it enters the battlefield, secretly choose an opponent. I do love the secretly choose an opponent thing. That is some drama right there. Reveal the player you chose. Exile target creature that's attacking you if it's controlled by the chosen player. Activate only once. So basically you play this, you secretly write down someone's name, and you're like, okay, if this person attacks me, I'm just going to exile one of their creatures right away. And like, I think this is so much better than like a pillow fort strategy. A pillow fort, yeah, I gotta pay like 2 extra mana. That's not fun. I'm not like rolling the dice on whether I'm just going to get my creature exiled when I attack. Also, it exiles, not destroy, right? So like all kinds of indestructible things, whatever, doesn't matter. It's just going to do it anyway. Yeah, it does target the creature, so unfortunately things like Hexproof and Shroud would block it, but that's about it. Anyway, amazing for, like, I think this is 7 cents. Sky Hunter Strike Force. Okay, so this is 2 and a white for a 2/2 flying melee. I'm going to get to melee in a second. It has Lieutenant. As long as you control your commander, other creatures you control have melee. This, I think, did it make it? No, it barely got cut in my video on the Lieutenant. So if you saw that, I actually covered a whole bunch of Lieutenants. This was not on it by just a hair. Okay, so first of all, what is melee? Melee creatures you control gain +1/+1 for each opponent being attacked that combat until end of turn only, obviously. But in a game of like a multiplayer game or a game of Commander, say, you have 3 opponents. You can throw like a 1/1 creature at an opponent and another opponent, and they make a real attack against the third opponent, and everything is getting +3/+3. Your whole board is. Especially with white, you can do a lot of like token strategies that will be able to like really maximize your use of this. Anyway, 92 cents. Cutzil Manimal Malamet. Manimal. I'm thinking Transformers Maximals. Cutzil Malamet Exemplar. Malamet Exemplar. I'm still not good at saying some things. Anyway, 1 Selesnya, green-white, so your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Whenever 1 or more opponent creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player. Draw a card. Oh boy. So as long as it has power greater than its base power, it doesn't matter how you do that. You can do it with equipment, +1/+1 counters, whatever you want. Selesnya loves +1/+1 counters, so this is something that's not hard to do. Yeah, so anyway, 68 cents only. Yeah, one last note, preventing opponents from being able to cast spells during your turn really just shuts down. Like a lot of blue decks are relying on that. That's how blue decks are going to really get to you, and you just like basically turned it off right there. So it's one of those cards that just kind of like turns off a strategy a deck can use against you, which I think is amazing. And yeah, adding to that card draw, well worth the 68 cents. Temur Sabertooth. Okay, I feel like this is the most well-known one on the list. Maybe my number 1, unfortunately. Okay, so it is 2 green for a 4/3, and for 1 green, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. First of all, the whole like bouncing card back to your hand can be super useful in many ways. Secondly, just making it indestructible, right? You can avoid most board wipes just by like picking up 1 creature and then this creature gets indestructible. So really you're preventing a board wipe against 2 creatures. Admittedly, you gotta recast one of them, but it's still better than the graveyard most of the time. Anyway, 125. Bronze Hide Lion. Here's another weird one. So for a green and a white, it's a 3/3. So first of all, that's a great, right? 2 mana for a 3/3 is good. And yeah, so for if you pay green white again, Bronze Hide Lion gains indestructible until end of turn. And when it dies, you automatically return it to the battlefield. You can attach it as an enchantment to any creature you want, and that creature can gain indestructible anytime you want. So especially in something like Commander, or in really any deck where you're like, I want to keep this one creature alive, doing this is like an automatic, like, save its life thing. You're going to be able to use this, and it's almost can function almost like a counter spell a lot of times. Like any kind of targeted removal being used against that creature, you just shut it down. And what really happens more often is, like, you got the mana open, and this is on a creature, they just don't bother targeting that creature. They're just wasting they're going to waste their spell, right? So it's more, yeah, the disincentive value is extremely high, I think. 27 cents. Finally, Jareth Leonin Titan. They spelled Leonin with an E. Have I been doing it wrong? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure Leonin is not usually spelled with an E, but okay. I spelled it wrong on there too. Okay. So again, 3 white. So 6 mana. This is pricey. But it's a 4/7. First of all, a 4/7 is not so bad for 6 mana. Still not great. Whenever Jareth Leonin Titan blocks, it gets +7/+7. Probably one of the scariest blockers in the game, right? As soon as it blocks, it becomes an 11/14. An 11/14 blocker, what you want to do is have some way to give him flying, right? That's the main thing. If he can fly, he's going to shut down like every other attacker in the game. Even dragons are usually the flyers that everyone's like, oh no, flying dragon, very bad. 11/14 is going to take down that dragon. Oh boy. Anyway, and protection from a color will allow him to avoid targeted removal. First of all, 1 white to gain protection of the color of your choice until end of turn. Only 1 white for protection from a color. That's a bargain right there. And also you can use it for evasion, right? You can give him a bunch of equipment or something, pay the 1 white, and give him protection from the color, whatever color is common among your opponents. Even remember, creatures that have 2 colors, if they're like Golgari, they have black-green, if you give them protection from black, it's protection from that creature still. It doesn't have to protect against all the colors, just 1. So yeah, even kind of dual and tricolor decks, a lot of times you'll be able to find that like 1 color that the creatures share, and just like give him evasion, and he can get through no problem. Anyway, 37 cents. The list. Sky Hunter Strike Force, 92 cents. Cutzilla Malamute Exemplar is 68 cents. Temur Sabertooth is 125. Very well known, please don't get angry at me for putting a well-known card in, okay? Bronzehide Lion is 27 cents. And Jareth Leonin Titan, I feel like this is also a very well-known one. I didn't spell Leonin within 2 E's again. Anyway, 37 cents. Alright, take it easy.